People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down. When you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange. Alright, yeah.
I want to introduce the host of Strange Darkness Radio, Bobby Washington and Tony Carr.
Hey, Tony, how's it going?
It's going good, man. How you doing today?
Cool, I'm doing great, man. Hey, we have a special guest on today's show, which is Mike. And Mike was on our last show titled Journey to Hell. And hey, Mike, we want to welcome you back to the show.
Good, thank you. Good to be.
Yeah, we wanted to follow up because, again, Tony wasn't on the show last time. And, I wanted him to come on, and you just had like so much information there, and we wanted to go ahead and give that information to the public and just get more in depth into your story. So where we last left off, you were basically talking about the situation, like what is the price you're willing to pay to delve into whether it's the dark arts or whether it's just negativity in general, to go down a pipeline, of despair that you're not even aware of until you're actually in it. So what I want to ask you, in following up on that, is what price did you end up paying for being delving into the dark arts?
That's a good question. That's hard to answer.
Okay.
Because there was always a fine line between wanting to go too far.
Yes.
And there's always a fine line of wanting more, in the sense of greed. And I think I was fortunate in the aspect of not paying any major consequences, you might say, in life, because I always understood there's a price to be paid. The question isn't whether there is.
Yeah.
The question is whether you pay it. And I would look forward into what could this cost me? What could the ultimate price be? So I always had little things that was, it's hard to explain it, like clauses into that if it's meant to be that no loved ones would ever be hurt or anything like that, which people in the arts is going to stand up and say, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, the reality is that's not the way people are.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where how far is too far? How far is not too far? And I think the price that I started to delve into was probably my mind.
Okay.
Not seeing what I was doing, not seeing how far off the path of spiritually I really was, not grasping the full reality of all the consequences.
Now, where in, like, when did you start this journey? Like, what age were you at when you started delving into that?
I had to have been somewhere between the age of 12, 14 years of age. I had an early on interest because I had questions. I went to church with my grandparents or my grandmother. I was raised in the church. I was raised you just don't do that.
Yeah.
And I had questions that was never answered.
Mm-hmm.
And the people of the church tell me, well, that's the works of the devil. That's Satan's work. You don't want to mess with it. Well, why? What's wrong with it? Tell me. Nobody had answers. So from an early age, the interest started to peak because I was like that little kid. Why?
Mm-hmm. Yes, asking.
And I just started
those questions.
And and the more I read, the more I started to study. Then one day you go to, well, I wonder if this really works. So you start playing around, you start dabbling with it, and a little bit becomes a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it escalates. And before you know it, your whole life is encompassed with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you live. You eat, sleep, live, wait. You do everything for that. And you don't even realize it.
Yeah. So, and also you were, because I mean, you're very knowledgeable about the Bible. So were you using that as let me show you why it's not true, or were you just still having questions to, challenge your faith or whatever maybe this is not the right path. Maybe, so what reasons, what were you so in depth, and knowledgeable about, the Bible at those particular times?
I went from just wanting answers to starting to twist things where, well, if the Bible says it's no, why not?
Yeah.
I started to actually question some of the aspects of Scripture. And the more I read, the more I studied, the more in depth I started blending things together. And I started taking parts of Hinduism and I started blending that with parts of the black arts, and I started blending that with parts of just everything. I could sit here forever and talk about the different aspects. Yeah. But
so you were
started blending things together.
Yeah, you were looking deep into the research of religion, be it good, bad, evil, indifferent, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism. You were just looking for questions.
Yeah, and it's like with Buddhism, the enlightened one. I mean, that's great, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And then I would look into Hindu, and Hinduism made sense.
Yeah.
Hindu, all the sense in the world to me, but yet so did the Bible, so did Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
But yet one works under grace and one works under law.
Yeah.
What do we? There is no compromise. It's either one way or the other. And then I would look at things in Judaism, and all you had to do was read the Old Testament, and that made sense. And then I would look at things with numerology, and that would make sense. And everything made sense at a certain point. And the more things made sense, the more I started condensing the best of everything into one.
Mm-hmm.
And that one became what my practice was, my life.
Yeah.
And it was very consuming.
Now, in the first interview, you were saying but you basically died 3 times. Was it consecutive or was it at different times?
Well, I flatlined in the hospital. It was at different times.
Okay. There
was the initial time that I was taken into the emergency room, sometime during the stay with them, and then after they had put me up into the intensive care unit, they had to do a can't remember what they call it, but it's where they like a mucus clot or something in the lung. They were to remove that, and whatever it was they did, my body didn't react to it very well, and I stopped breathing right there.
Oh wow.
Okay. Well, I have a question too as well. What flatlined you in the first place? Like, what happened with that?
Respiratory failure.
Oh, okay. So when you went to hell, when did you realize you was in hell?
You just knew it.
You've had that feeling?
From the very beginning. You were just there. You just knew it.
Yeah. Okay.
So on the other, and that was the third time, correct? That happened on the third time opposed to the first or second.
Well, I flatlined twice.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I can't tell you if it was the first time, the second time, or when I was taken in, I just kind of departed into that side, medically alive, spiritually dead, back and forth. I couldn't give you a time for that. I can just tell you that I saw the face of it, and the face of hell that I saw was fit for no human.
Yeah.
And that I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Wow.
Okay. When you was down there, do you recall what you saw? Like people burning, or demons or demonic presence and stuff like that?
You could feel, like I said, this was from what I seen, or from what I gathered, it was just the face of it. You might say, you were in the entrance of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a dark, very dark sense. You knew there was no return. You were constantly battling to want to get out. I've seen people from all age, all walks of life, all sizes, from anorexic all the way up to obese. I've seen any person who had the comprehension that could accept Christ was in there that denied him. What I did not see was young children that was suffering. I did not see those who were mentally disabled.
Oh, wow.
That was suffering, unless it was self-afflicted, like they did something to themselves, or they're out there riding 100 miles an hour plus on a motorcycle, getting a bad wreck, and self-inflicted acts.
Yeah.
So I never seen any person that was disabled there that didn't understand why they were there, or what it was.
Yeah, off of their
every person had full comprehension.
Off the way they lived their life, or whether or not they even committed suicide, or just whatever particular reason, they weren't, strong in the faith, or they weren't believers. So it was people who can actually comprehend, not children, disabled people, that type of situation. That's interesting.
Yep.
How long did the experience feel like it lasted to you? Did you feel like it was it, to where it was just, that was it? Like, I'm here. I'm not getting out. This is it.
You don't have a sense of time recollection, per se, to put it in hours or days. You have a sense of it's never ending.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk of eternity and say, well, it's without end. It's never ending, forever and shall be. I mean, you can put it in words that could try to describe, but you can't even grasp what eternity is until you got a sense of it, a taste of it.
Yeah.
Was you able to hear screaming down in hell?
I didn't hear the screaming like some people might describe.
Yeah.
But you could just sense the people that was around you. You could just sense the discomfort. You could sense on some agony. You could sense the fighting, the fear. You could sense just the horror of what it was.
Okay.
And
did you have your senses about you, as far as like, smell? Obviously you had sight, were there any other senses that you had or can recall?
I don't recall the sense of smell personally, but I had the sense of obviously sight, and I had the sense of mobility at that time. and I had, you could say, the sense of your mind, the comprehension to understand what was there, what was going on, and it was just pure horror.
Yeah.
But
how long ago
I was
did this
taken.
happen?
Now go ahead and finish your thought real quick.
Well, that happened in January of 2019.
Oh, okay.
But you could just sense the horror of what was there. I remember there was a building, and that building, for the lack of better words, it looked like it was destroyed by war, like bombs had bombed it out. And you could see a huge pile of dead babies just piled up. And all you could see was the innocence was being destroyed. The innocence of life was being taken. And looking as hindsight, I could see where society is destroying the innocence. They're killing the innocence of our children.
Yeah.
They're not raising them right. They're not teaching them values and morals. God and belief is taken out of the family home.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Experience. Did you, at this time, were you following the Bible and its teachings at that particular time, or were you still questioning and or tapping into satanic rituals or belief?
I wasn't doing any works or anything of that nature. I wasn't dealing with the arts or the craft.
The only reason why I ask is, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if I could say I was really living by the scripture.
Yeah.
Or studying like I should. I can't say honestly I'm doing that now, and I don't think anybody can really say they are.
Oh, for sure.
But there's always improvements and to do better.
Exactly. And the only reason why I asked that question is because when you went there, based upon, dealing with, the satanic side of things, throughout your life, did you ever think to call on a demon or the devil himself to say like, okay, I've been doing your works. Like, why am I here? And if I'm here, why am I in this state opposed to whatever state if a person that believes in that would think they would go? Because, if you ask someone who believes in the Bible, they're like, oh, I'm going to go to heaven. This is this unbelievable place. And, I'm going to be, next to God and all these other things that are spectacular. But a person who believes in the opposite, like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, you think that kingdom is the same thing, or is it there where you're actually torturing people? You're the manager of this particular area opposed to, the actual, person, being stripped of his flesh and so on and so forth. So what were your thoughts about that, if you had any?
Yeah. When you're out there in that, I don't know what to call it, a dimension, the afterlife,
mm-hmm.
You don't even think, you don't even consider,
mm-hmm.
or at least I did. That thought never even crossed my mind. Why am I here? You know why you're there.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
So you said you did, or did you ever do witchcraft?
Yes.
Okay. When you was doing it, like, doing the witchcraft and rituals and stuff like that, did you ever sense like like an evil type of presence or like a demonic presence that was with you when you did it or when you wasn't doing it?
There have been times.
And how was that feeling? Was it like, did you just feel like there was, like somebody, like just what was your feeling towards it?
Yeah. Was it like a heaviness? Did you, did you like, did it amp you up to say, okay, there is something here,
Well, the sense would be, it could be, a lot of people describe temperature change where it gets colder. I've noticed that. There's times you can just sense something dark around you, like another person or another entity. you could tell there was something else that was there. Then there was times that I can't say I really smelled much.
Okay.
But you could
Also,
sense, but
Go ahead, finish.
you could sense it. You just knew something was there.
okay. Okay, so during all that, did you ever have like a lot of paranormal activities, things going around? Like things moving, you see a
Shadow
figure on the side of
figures.
your eye.
You might notice something like out of the corner of your eye, like a
Yeah.
movement or something. But it's you always question it.
Because did you ever feel that you had, any attachments
Yeah.
after delving into, and calling on? Like, did you ever call? You know how they say, okay, you're dealing with demonic spirits, whether you're using a Ouija board or however you're trying to communicate, don't speak the name. Because if you speak the name, there's a possible chance, one, you bring it to fruition, and two, it will attach itself to you. And then it's something that you have to get rid of. Or, I mean, if you want to get rid of it, opposed to, the latter.
I've never felt anything physically attached to me.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of people that I've encountered, when they delve into it, they feel they have an attachment. Like, so, and they're attached, and some people equate it to like nothing good happens to me. Like everything around me, there's some when something's going great, there's the other side to where it just goes extremely bad, and their luck just never changes. And some people feel that, that's an attachment that's happened, whether they were messing with a Ouija board, whether they were living in a house that was haunted, or, something like that. Have you ever, because again, I, talk on the show about me seeing a being, or, and something laying in my parents' bed that, it actually, just dissipated and went down. The blankets were disheveled and everything else. And again, at the time, I was like 9 years old. But you've never had any type of experience that you could not explain?
I remember looking out a big slider, glass door, and being able to look over into the neighbor's yard. It was late at night, and I remember the neighbor's yard back there. They had a swimming pool, and there was they had like big lawn chairs out, beach type chairs to lay back on in the backyard. And I looked out over the fence one day as a child, and it looked like two demons was looking right at you, like laying back on a lawn chair. And I remember then it scared the life out of me at the time.
Yeah.
But it didn't scare me enough. It was always, what is it? It was always something that drew you back.
Yeah, exactly.
See it again. You always want to go back to it, no matter what you felt. And the more you go back, the more comfortable you become with it. And I can remember the next morning looking out there, and it looked like they were sitting back on this lawn chair looking right at you. And it was nothing there. There was nothing.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
that's crazy. What is your opinion or thoughts on like paranormal, or ghost and yeah?
I believe they're there. I kind of have mixed feelings or mixed thoughts on a lot of things, but I definitely believe they exist and they're there.
Mm. Okay, this is a good time to go ahead and take a little small break, and we'll be right back.
Make sure you check us out on Podbean, our hosting site. You can find us also on iTunes and Spotify.
Okay, Mike. So, being that you were delving in witchcraft, was it always dark to where it was dark witches or blood covenant, or was it? Did you ever deal with the whole white witch scenario to where it's like, oh, I'm not, really doing evil. I'm just trying to, use this to my advantage, type thing.
Well, in the beginning, it started out as some would call it white, or some would call it good works, or good witchcraft. And I started studying in the beginning. I started studying Wicca, which was a very earth-based belief. As far as a format of beliefs, it's actually a very beautiful and calming in what it is, but you're still worshiping a lie.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because
And
you hear about
time
Wiccans a
went
lot.
on. It escalated. It just escalated. Now, I say you're still worshiping a lie because based on my beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't. You have to make a choice.
Yeah. So now
It's like
go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like the teachings of Christ. No one can serve two masters, or you will love one and hate the other.
Mm. Wow, that's a powerful statement. In being that this occurred and happened to you, and did it now? Obviously, from the way you're talking, it really reinforced your belief in the Bible, Jesus, God. It was now it's like you're locked in, correct?
There is absolutely nothing worth on this planet dying for.
Yeah,
Nothing.
for sure.
If you don't put Christ as first in your life, then there's nothing that you can do differently.
Mm-hmm.
Because as the teachings of Christ state, no one can come to the Father except through I.
Wow.
And there's the teachings of the New Testament is just pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
Clear in it. And I try to tell people, God doesn't send you to hell.
Yeah.
He merely honors or respects your wishes.
That's powerful. That's a powerful statement, because some people be like, yo, I've been living life, perfectly. I haven't done this and haven't done that. But, are you living it to where you're, living it by the Bible? So, yeah.
And people will also have the misconception, well, good work, I do good for people. Well,
Yes.
It doesn't matter what good you do for people if you're still a dark person.
Yeah. Oh, no,
Even
definitely.
Even people who would study Satanism. Now, there is a difference between Satanism and devil worship. There's a big difference.
Mm.
Satanism is power and earthbound. Devil worship is, it's illegal in every aspect, and immoral, and deals with blood and killing. And I don't know anything about people going into that.
Yeah, because so do you feel that that's why, when people always talk about those evil things, those demons that come, those attachments, that you weren't dealing with the devil side of things, you were more, dealing with a different aspect of it?
You're still dealing with it. You're just dealing with it from a different angle.
Okay.
That's like if your mom tells you not to have a cookie before dinner, so instead of asking your mom, you go ask your dad, because your dad's going to look at his watch, and so you go ahead. Dinner's in an hour and a half. You're still doing wrong, but you're just getting what you want from a different angle.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let me ask you this, since this whole experience. Now, when it comes into ghosts that, people believe in and people say they see and hear and have different encounters with, do you believe that that's, that ghosts and people actually walk the earth, or you believe those are demons that walk the earth?
That's my mixed feelings. You can't believe both of them is every way. But there's a part of me that wants to say I believe there's ghosts that'll come to you, or spirits that'll come to you for good meaning, because you see things sometimes. Like, I put my grandfather to rest, and he came back at a later date, shortly after his funeral services, reached out to shake hands. As soon as our fingers touched, he disappeared. Well, for my grandfather, him shaking your hand, it's accepted. It's a deal.
Oh, wow.
He agrees to it. That's an old way of doing it. A man's only as good as his word, and you're only as good as your handshake. That's where that kind of comes from. So, and I understood my grandfather because he raised me.
Yeah.
On the other hand, what does it teach us? What does the scripture teach? That after you die, you're going to be held. You're going to be held to judgment.
Exactly, and you don't come back, and you're not supposed to, talk to spirits or encounter them, unless obviously if it's God, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, and all that stuff. But as far as man or believing that, you're not supposed to delve into those circles. So that is interesting. So you did have a experience with someone who passed away and came back to say, their parting words for whatever that reason, something that you probably needed to hear at the time, or, something that person needed to move on. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I do want to make it clear that I did not do any workings to draw my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
That he came to me in a dream. I was asleep.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
But it was very clear and very vivid into what I saw. And when I woke up, there was nothing that I was scared. I knew who he was, and it was comforting.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to ask, when you was doing witchcraft, did you do any animal sacrificing?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No. When people who do that, that's getting into devil worship. We never dealt with devil worship.
Okay, so that's a little different then.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah,
go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, no, that's just a whole different aspect of that stuff. And that was nothing anybody, myself included, ever got involved in.
Yeah. So you were doing it for spells, like were you trying to cast spells on individuals, or whether it was for luck, money, to get a particular job, or to change someone's mind about a situation or circumstance? Was that your purpose?
Some was money, to draw money to me. Some was to gain a better job. Some was to get people to leave you alone, because like a supervisor, that he's just overbearing. He singled you out.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't got nothing to do with you, but he just wants to point fingers at you, do work to make him just leave you alone.
Yeah. Do you feel any of that worked?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, my
almost definitely.
My girlfriend, her uncle does witchcraft, but he does it to kind of like, I don't know if he does spells or whatever, but it's more to keep whoever he's with in the relationship with them, not want to leave. So he's one of those type of guys when it comes to using it for a purpose of his own.
Mm-hmm. So he likes to control people.
Yeah, I would say no. Yeah, I would say control. To the point that it's like, you're not going to leave me. So I'm practicing, this witchcraft to keep you with me.
Is the person still with him? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So he had an individual he was with years ago, and it took her a long time to leave him. But she has memory, but then she doesn't have memory. It's kind of like foggy in a way. Like she says like it feels like I was a zombie throughout those times.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done that, Mike, by any chance?
No.
Yeah,
people like that, because now you're taking a person's free choice away.
Exactly. That is very true. So let me ask you, in having this experience and in coming, back, do you believe that the end times are near? That these are the last days, that are upon us?
I do.
Mm.
I believe we're approaching the end times.
Yeah, because of the way you described the whole baby situation and the feeling that you got, like this is a prelude to what's to come, with the, buildings, because obviously you're like, if you think of hell, you're going to think of lava pits and bodies and so on and so forth. You're not going to think of actual buildings, that are, basically, do you think that you saw hell on earth? Like it wasn't even that you went to hell. You just saw like you were like this, turned into hell, basically.
It's possible. It's a good question.
Yeah, because a lot of people see different things, but when they have these near death experiences, and I've always heard that they you hear about the lava pits and just different things in different scenarios, but none of them really describe seeing buildings and having the thought like the humanity itself is collapsing and falling apart, and to come back and tell people like, hey, you might want to start living right, you might want to start believing in the Bible. It's pretty much oh, this is what I saw, this is how I felt, and this is where I was, and I was pulled out when I woke up. Or but also on the other side of things, you do hear about the stories. I talked to Jesus, and I talked to an angel, and they brought me back. There was this one story on this guy that he went to heaven, and he loved it so much he didn't want to go, and they were telling his parents were around him, telling him it's not your time, you need to go back. And so there was this door, and he kept. They're like, okay, go through this door. And then they would walk away, and he would go around the door, back of the door, just so he can go back and sit at the feet of Jesus. And Jesus, kept telling him, you're not supposed to be here. You need to go. And then, and so that happened like 3 or 4 times. And in the hospital, they were bringing him back, and they were using the paddles. And every time they thought they got him, he would slip back. And that was him saying that every time he was trying to be pushed out, he didn't want to leave, because you get that sense of the place that you want to be, and you long, to be there. And it's not like, when that happens, you can be like, okay, how am I going to make it happen to where I can get back? Well, obviously, you do something crazy, it can cast you into hell. So yeah, so he tells his story also, or whatever. So that's an interesting story. But yeah, so again, Mike is on the show with us tonight, and we're hearing his story and all that good stuff. But also, we have a call, and I want to go ahead and get to that, and then we'll discuss it after we hear this call. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Caller, tell us your story.
When my daughter was 3, she came in my room in the middle of the night, woke me up and said, "Mommy, can you please get the little girl out of my room?" And I'm sleeping. I'm like, what little girl? She's like, the little girl. She's jumping on my bed. She wants to play with me. She won't get out of my room. I'm like, oh, just sleep with me. So she slept with me. The next day, I didn't think anything of it. Then she comes to me and says, I'm so sick of Daddy moving my toys around in my dollhouse. He comes in my room and plays with my dollhouse and moves them all around. I'm like, I highly doubt your father's doing that. He probably banged into it by accident, making your bed or something. This went on for pretty much every morning. Somebody's rearranging my dollhouse. Didn't think anything of it at all. The only reason I thought of it was because one night, me and my husband come in from outside, and our oldest daughter comes and says, oh my gosh, Mom, Dad, the freakiest thing just happened. And we're like, what? And she's like, I came downstairs and Jen was in the kitchen. And then I see her walk by, so I walk to follow her in her room to see if she's okay. And I see her in her bed sleeping. But she was just walking. So I wanted to make sure that she wasn't tricking me. So, I tried to wake her up, but she was sleeping. She wasn't joking. I think I saw a ghost. And I'm like, oh crap. Jennifer said there was a little girl in her room. I wonder, So the next day I say to Jennifer, what does the little girl look like? And she said, she has long blonde hair, blue eyes, and she's white. She looks like me. Okay, because my daughter had long blonde hair, blue eyes, and I said, is she your age? And she said, no, she's younger than me. She's probably 2 or 3. Now my daughter was 4, maybe 4.5. So I'm like, holy crap. So, I'm on the phone with my mom and my sisters, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. And I'm like, what the hell do I do? And my sister reminds me, I trash picked that damn dollhouse, like right when this whole thing started going. But you don't notice little things, right? I was like, oh my God. I brought a spirit into my house by trash picking this like handmade built dollhouse I thought was beautiful. And that's the dollhouse the furniture was being arranged in. Her furniture didn't come with furniture. I just trash picked the dollhouse. Anyway, long story short, we ended up burning the dollhouse in the fire pit to try to get rid of the spirit. And then maybe 6 months later, my daughter comes to me and says, oh my gosh, Mom, we burned that little girl's dollhouse, and then she burned our house down because we were living in a hotel because our whole entire house burned down.
Have you ever witnessed something you couldn't explain or felt you couldn't tell anyone about? Now is the time to tell your story on Strange Darkness Radio Hotline, 916-741-3032.
Whoa, man, that was wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's a spooky story.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, is it a set of circumstances that just happened the way it did, or was it, a child that was really attached to this particular dollhouse, and she got pissed that, okay, you burned my house, I'm gonna burn down yours. What'd you think about that story, Mike?
I would turn around on that and say you could say there's a lot of coincidence.
Yeah.
In that, but I think sometimes coincidence needs to be looked at as to how and why it turned that way.
Yep.
I would say my personal feeling about what I heard is that child's spirit was in that dollhouse. That child died. And that child probably died either a violent or a horrific type of death. Because even a child is going to be mischievous. Not that evil.
Yeah,
you might say.
Exactly.
So I would say that child probably had a horrific death by some means and attached itself to that dollhouse, and that's where the dollhouse was put out. This mother, she found it, brought it in, and then that spirit that was attached to it wanted to live a child and never left.
Yeah.
And that's where I say I kind of become mixed on my feelings about some of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I would probably answer it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, scripturally, I have to also say that the Lord would have taken the child's spirit of innocence, and that would have been it.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
Yeah.
I got mixed feelings on that. I just,
Then from the skeptic side, I gotta, sometime chime in for the skeptics, because I know they're screaming out there as they listen to this, is that the daughter was, having different, going through different things at the time, could possibly been pissed that her mom burnt her dollhouse down and burned the house down and blamed it on the child, that she had an imaginary friend. So, but it doesn't explain the daughter seeing the kid walk into a room, and that's that whole thing. Reason why I, do the show and wanted to talk about certain things, because who's to say that in another dimension, or if you believe in that, or multiverse and so on and so forth, or things being overlaid, that it was just one time that the kid was walking through the room, somehow bled into our reality of that occurring. So again, there's just so much to everything, and it's just something that I like to talk about and dive into, because it's just, there is so much going on in the world right now. And again, I know a lot of it's social media. As far as hearing the news, it could have always been going on, but now we can, instantaneously put out news or stories and different things, whatever, that we couldn't do, no less than even 20 to 30 years ago, and let alone 50 to 60 years ago. So, it took a long time for news to travel, and as we go back in time. So, we're not sure if it's just people are speaking on things now and posting things and seeing things. But when you hear about, the mom who kills her kid because she was, hearing demonic things telling her, to do, that that her kid was demonic and to kill it. And, then involving her son, one situation where she involved her son into helping her kill her daughter, those things are happening more and more, to where they're claiming, it was a demon that made me do it, or the child was possessed, or the person was possessed, so it's very intriguing to go down these avenues, whatever, just to see where we're at. But like you said, could it be that end times are near, and the devil is, coming to get his due? Any thoughts?
very possible.
Yeah.
Very possible.
So,
You
go ahead, Mike.
dabble into the world. The risk that you're going to take is losing your mind.
Yeah. Yep. And it's so hard to even say, who's crazy and not these days. You know what I mean? Because that word is, if a spirit is talking to you and you're feeling like, wow, there's something wrong. I need to go to the doctors. I need to be on something because I'm hearing this particular voice or whatever else. And it could be, a person's being haunted literally, and they're taking these pills, and it's even making the situation worse, to where it just ends up taking over, and, they commit suicide and everything else because this demon or this particular entity, took control, because those pills allowed for that control to happen, basically kind of like losing your soul in a sense. So it's all very intriguing, because I've always said, when you see people, on the corners, talking about Jesus and holding up, signs, about scriptures and different things, who's to say that those people aren't hearing the word of God and God is telling them to tell us, but then everybody just labels them as crazy. So it's very interesting, because in this high society of electronics and, fast movers, and information the way it does, and you just want to label everybody, a homeless person, or this person's crazy, or, this, that, and the other. I've never seen a person on the corner saying, come to the devil, saying, I'm demonic. Here is whatever demonic language that I, found in these particular books or whatever, and they're holding up a sign. I've never seen that. So it's interesting.
The devil's not going to change your path if you're on a false path.
Yeah.
You could preach the Bible and be a false prophet, and you're still following in the ways of darkness.
No, for sure.
The Bible does warn us not just of the end times, but of false prophets too. And because
for sure.
a person can preach, love and peace doesn't really mean the person is preaching the truth either.
Yes.
Well, we've been told that the path to righteousness is narrow, and the path to destruction is broad and wide.
Mm-hmm. But here's the caveat to that. The person on the street that's doing that, they're not actually affecting, meaning you're not joining their, whatever. And let's say it's just some homeless person holding up a sign or preaching the word of God. They're not holding court as far as you're going to their church, getting you to buy into whatever. You just hear it in passing and be like, oh, I needed that word. I needed to hear John 3:16. I needed to, know that people still believe, and it changed my, mood, or it made me think, and it made me, change something I was going to do, whether I was going to go home and beat my wife, whether I was going to go shoot up something or whatever. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the false prophet that actually holds church and holds service over people to where they can actually, influence them on a regular basis, and then, use, all the darkness to lead these people down different paths and to their own dealings, as far as whether it's gaining money, sex, just all that stuff. I'm just talking about the general person that's out there that you see from time to time that's preaching whatever word, in that sense. But because the Antichrist, they say is coming and will, do a lot or whatever. And, just like the whole Jim Jones, scenario that had effect over all those people to where they actually lost, their lives, in following him.
Also don't forget that the vast majority of people don't go to church. So who's the vast majority of people going to listen to? It's not the person in the church, the building, but it's going to be the people that's outside of it.
Yeah.
So be wary of their teachings, match it to Scripture, and make sure that the word that you're reading hasn't been twisted too.
That's a good one. Tony, you were saying?
That's where you study.
Yeah.
Oh, I was saying, because how in the Bible, I think it's Revelation. Don't quote me on it. I don't know. But I don't know which chapter, but it is, do you think that we're going to go through, do you think we're going to go through the chip on our hands, or we can't buy, sell anything without this technology?
Mark of the beast. You're talking about the mark of the beast.
Mm-hmm. They're all working on that. They're already working on a cashless society. They're already working on being able to just wave your hand in front of a computer or vending machines, and you can automatically make a purchase. They've already done that.
Well, yeah, people aren't accepting it. We're already getting used to it with our phones. You get to pay with your phone. You get pay with your watch. Tap your card. This already starting to go that route, and the dollar is already losing the value. So it's really not going to be any cost of just cash anymore.
Yeah, we're already in that direction. We're not there completely yet, but we are definitely leading in that direction. I don't know if we will actually see that in our lifetime, but I believe our children's lifetime will be.
We're kind
of in the next 30 or 40.
I think it's going to be a little bit sooner than that, only because Elon Musk is developing a device that would be embedded in a person's brain that would record brain activity, allow them to utilize money and assets, or whatever, transactions and all that great stuff. So that's being tested as we speak.
Well, also too, there was a company I think in London or in Europe somewhere like 5 years ago. They all got chipped on their hands, and then you can pay for your food there. Vending machine, you can turn your computer on, open your desk. There's actually a company that's like that in Seattle, I believe. Um, they're all chipped, so they can log into their computer, buy stuff from vending machines and shit like that. Actually, I came across this lady on TikTok. She has a chip in her hand, and in her house, there's no locks or anything on the doors. You could just put your hand there, and it locks the door. Or if you put your hand, wave your hand, and it unlocks the fridge. Like the whole house is bugged with all these things, like so they can, get places. It's crazy.
Yeah, I like you said it was bugged.
No, because like they just put their hands in, their drawer that they locked is open. It was crazy to see.
Yeah. So, Mike, in closing, what would you want people to know, and just to help someone who's went down a path of being in a covenant and looking for something different or to get out, basically. Can you give them any words of how to make that happen?
Well, first of all, you got to make that choice.
Yeah.
And to get out, I've never known any group or any persons or people that would refuse to let you out if you wanted out. We never held anybody back. You want out, we wish you the best. I've heard other stories, but I don't know how much truth there is in it. Don't buy into the chip. Don't buy into this brain implants. Don't do it. It's gonna have to be self-supportive in a world. We're gonna have to start looking for other means. Start growing. Start stocking. Start canning. Start living a lot differently.
Yeah, exactly. Start raising your kids.
Yeah, start raising your kids and taking responsibility for actions and stop blaming everybody else.
Yeah, for sure.
But you can't go along with it. And one person does. Oh, well, Johnny over here did. So why can't Tim do it? So Timmy gets pushed into it. Next thing, well, they ain't got no problems doing it. You're the oddball. I see that mind over matter game in today's politics and today's workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And all these big outfits and big companies and corporations, it's all about the almighty dollar.
That is very
and whatever
true.
works to make them money and whatever is going to pay them. You think chip companies are going to not going to want, say, I'm not going to name any companies, but say a big $100 million corporation not going to want their money? No. So of course they're going to come in with this technology. They're going to come in and make it dirt cheap, even if they got to sell it for cost or under cost, because they're going to have maintenance fees on all this stuff. They're going to make their money back one way, they're going to make it the other. And then as time goes on, now that you set up, you're going to have to pay for everything. It's all about money.
Yep.
Look at our health system. Look how it got destroyed.
Exactly.
How do you go back to it? Every time you try to go back, they fight you. They balk you.
That is very true. Well, Mike, thanks for being on Strange Darkness Radio. Thanks for telling your story for a second time and going in more depth and detail about it. You're welcome to come on the show anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you definitely have the gift of gab and the information and knowledge, to back it up. And, I'm glad you're still here and with many more years to come, and that you're, a soldier for Christ and everything else. And, just thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Alrighty. We're out. Tony?
See y'all next week.
I am Buzz Aldrin, and I was the lunar module pilot on Apollo 11.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
The truth is that we've never proved one, but there are things flying around up there that we haven't fully identified yet. And keep in mind, there are basically 1 billion galaxies in an ever-expanding universe. I mean, you can't even get your mind around the sheer number of things that are out there.
People still take seriously trying to investigate and figure out what that is. There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are. We can't explain how they moved, their trajectory. They did not have an easily explainable pattern. When it comes to aliens, there's some things I just can't tell you.